Hello everyone, Elvis here from the Technical Support Department. In this guide, we will be setting up a SAML application in Microsoft Entra to support a single sign-on experience with Quickbase. To keep things short and to the point, I'm going to assume that you already have access to a Microsoft Entra IDP1 plan or higher and are configured as a cloud application administrator, or an owner of an already configured enterprise application. In Quickbase, I'm also going to assume that you have a business or enterprise plan and are configured as a ROM administrator. So, let's get to it. We first need to create the enterprise application in Entra if there already isn't one. We can get to the enterprise applications by searching in the search widget at the top, which will bring us to enterprise applications. We want to select create new application. We will create our own application. And once we are here, we are going to give our application a name. In this particular case, I'm going to give it the name of Quickbase SSO. We can keep the default selection and then click Create. Once the application is created, we should be within the application's overview, where we can then select Setup Single Sign-On, and then SAML. We should now be within the SAML configuration interface. Here are the required basic items. The entity ID, which is going to be your realm, and then the reply URL or the ACS URL, which is going to be your realm /SAML/SSO asset.axpx. So let's configure these. In this case, we are going to set up the entity ID as elvisbuilder.quickbase.com. I will just copy this and I will place in our ACS URL like so. Once that's done, we can click Save because we do not need a sign-on URL or the relay state or the logout URL. Once that's saved, we can move on to the attributes. Here are the 4 required attributes: the name ID or unique user identifier, the email address, first name, and last name. Everything else can be ignored. So let's edit the attributes and claims. The name ID or the unique user identifier populates the external authentication ID in Quickbase. So it's critical to pick something immutable like an employee ID. I don't have an employee ID, so I'm going to look for the object ID. And I'm going to select this object ID. The name identifier format, I'm going to change it from email address to unspecified. And then I'll save that. We can now move on to the additional claims. The email address needs to match one-to-one with the email of the end users within Quickbase, whether it's user.mail or user.userprincipal name. I'm going to edit my user.mail right here, and I'm going to change the name to email address. This is case sensitive, so we want to make sure we have a capital E and a capital A. The namespace needs to be cleared, and this needs to be cleared for every single attribute that we configure. We will move on to the user.givenname, which is going to be our first name. The F is going to be capitalized and the N is going to be capitalized. We will then clear out the namespace. The user.userprincipal name, we don't need this, so we can just delete it. And then finally, we have user.surname. We are going to populate that with last name, with the L capitalized and the N capitalized, and the namespace cleared. And that's it. We have now configured the basic SAML configuration as well as the attributes and claims. Once configured, grab the Federation metadata file, the base 64 certificate, as well as copying the logout URL and then the user access URL as well from the Properties tab. We will then navigate directly to Quickbase's admin console. Once at the admin console, we want to go to the SAML Authentication tab. And once at the SAML Authentication tab, we want to select Configure SAML. We are going to drag and drop our metadata file into the IDP metadata file. And if we are lucky, this should also upload the certificate, which it did in this case. If the certificate is not uploaded, upload the certificate as well. We will then populate the sign-in URL with the user access URL. And then for the sign out URL, we can populate it with the logout URL that we also copied. But since this is optional, we can also leave it empty. If you have an internal support page you want your end users to place in tickets if they have issues signing in, you can populate the support page URL with it. And if not, you can use https://www.quickbase.com/support. The text for support link is going to be support, and the entity ID is going to be your realm. In this particular case, it's going to be https://elvisbuilder.quickbase.com. In the advanced options, you can toggle on always use SAML if you want all end users to use single sign-on. If you have external users that will keep using local Quickbase credentials, you can toggle it off. And that's it. We will now hit submit, and we have now successfully configured single sign-on using Microsoft Entra.